Greetings and welcome back to Becoming a Published Author is Fun. Today we're in 2512 episode and we are going to be talking about banking. We've been talking about you being a business person. Well, part of that is having a business banking account. We're going to look at that a little bit here. So you might be thinking to yourself, oh, I would just use my personal bank account. Is that true or false? We're going to answer that for you. Because generally speaking, now there may be exceptions to this, but generally speaking, that statement is false. Why do I say that? Well, that's what the whole purpose of this episode is about. So, let's take a quick look at what we're talking about here. One of the, uh, we haven't gotten into types of business yet. We're going to be getting in there. But there are four basic types: the corporation, the limited liability corporation, partnership, and sole proprietor. So when you're at the level of a corporation or LLC, you have what's called a wall of separation, and that protects you. But it separates the business from your personal life, and it does so in a very legal way that protects you in as far as lawsuits are going. And there are different things, and we're going to look at how, even at the sole proprietor level, you can get some protection. Not nearly as good as you get at the corporate level, but you still can get that separation there a little bit. So, what we want to do is ask the question here is how? Well, how do you go about setting it up? Can you use your personal account? And I'm not going to say you can't. I'm sure there are people out there who try to do that. But the bank doesn't favor that sort of thing. So if you have a business and you want to carry on business transactions, the bank will want you to set up a business account, a business banking account. Uh, you might, it's conceivable that you might just do the bank and your personal banking account, and the bank is none the wiser. But when you get to a business that's doing transactions, paying taxes is one of those transactions, the government wants you to have a business account for your business taxes. They want to look at now if you're a like a sole proprietor, that's considered part of your personal, as part of you as a person. However, they even there you want to be able to differentiate between the business transactions and the personal transactions. The more you can separate them, the better your accounting is going to be, everything. So you want to be able to separate the two. You need to have a business account. So while it's possible to survive without one, um, I think it's going to be very difficult, and it may involve some legalities that you have to take care of. The best route that I can think of for you as well as for myself is to have that business account. And so what you want to do is keep your personal and use that for your personal expenses, so on and so forth. Have your business. And so in my case, I'm old enough to receive Social Security. So my Social Security goes into my personal account. And I got some, I guess you call it legal advice, and I was not aware of it at the time, but I have now I am, and I've taken the action, and that is I get the Social Security. I loan that money to the business, and then the business will repay that loan as I need the money. So the repayment is never going to really match up to the loan. But instead of transactions going back and forth between the two all the time, there's one transaction, or two really, Um, Still multiple, but as far as going out of your account into the business, it's basically one. You have money coming in this case it was my Social Security, and I loan it to the business, who then can you pay that back to me instead of as a wage. It's a repayment of the loan, and that's for me to live in my personal expenses, and the rest of the money stays in the business, and the IRS likes that. So that is one way of doing it. You can also uh, just simply transfer it over, and then not as a loan, but you transfer it over, and then your business pays you a wage. That's another way to go. It's a little bit more cumbersome and a little bit more involved than the loan, but it's still a way to go. Every state has its own laws. There are national laws that you have to follow, and there are state laws. I live in the state of Florida, so I have to follow the state of Florida. So it's kind of really basic. You don't have to be a genius to understand it, but you need to be aware of what your state says and what the laws are. Now, some of the transactions you're going to be dealing as a business are your debits and deposits, and you're going to want to track them. This is why you do the loaning up front that I was talking about, and this is why you have a business account. Because when you're doing your taxes, there's going to be all sorts of questions that are asked, and you need to have a grip on this here to be able to answer those questions. So if you're a corporation, that is already taken care of. I mean, everything is business. Is there on the business side, and the personal is personal, and they don't meet. There's that wall, what they call a wall of separation. Well, when you get down to where I'm at, I'm a sole proprietor. You don't have that wall of separation, and so I'm going to introduce you today to a little concept called DBA, doing business as. And this is a way to create some separation. It does not replace the wall of separation. The wall of separation stands by itself, and it does not come down to it. Partnerships don't have it, and neither does the sole proprietor. But you can have some separation, and the DBA allows that separation. It makes it possible. If you're going to set up a business banking account, you need to have a business name. And just going in and saying, well, my name's Ron Riddle, well, just put in my name, it won't work. It has to be your business name. And that's when you go and you file with your state government. And you're going to file it as a DBA, doing business as. And so you don't have to incorporate. Now, if you incorporate, you don't need this, although some corporations do use a DBA. But you go in there and you file under a name. My DBA is T&R Independent Books. And so everything goes through that. It's a legal name. I do business in that name. So I'm going to go into that in more detail in the next episode, but I want to touch on that a little bit. But getting back up to here again, back to our basic question here. Can you use your personal account? Well, technically, I'm sure you can. It's going to be complicated. They may have some legal complications. You may get audited. All sorts of things that you don't necessarily want to happen could happen. The thing is, you need to have that business account. And that's where the DBA comes in. But what you want to do is establish a way of tracking this, your debits, your deposits. And not only for the government's sake, for your own sake. How are you going to know where you're at if you're not tracking them? If you don't know what you've spent, then how are you going to know what you're going to spend in the future? If you don't know the kind of money you're bringing in, how are you going to know in the future? You need to be able to look back so you can anticipate what's going forward. And so the thing is, you want to have that basic understanding that basic separation so that you can separate the business from the personal. Again, I'm going to use myself as an example. Uh, Before I started the breaking it, forcing the separation and everything with the loans and everything, what I would do is I would have to go in at the end of the month and look back at the just the month before, and I'll go back and I'll look and say, okay, oh, that was personal, that was personal, that was personal, that's business, business, and they were two separate. They were all in the one bank account, and I was keeping them, trying to keep them separate. I spent hours doing that. But when I set up a business account, then I was able to have a personal checking account and I have a business checking account. Now there you have a separation. And yet, but it didn't stop there because I was transferring money back and forth, constantly going back and forth because I didn't have an understanding of what my personal was and my business was. So I had to create that. I started using Excel spreadsheets. You don't have to use Excel, but I would recommend using a spreadsheet. And you want to be able to track it. And that helps because now you have a picture right in front of your eyes and you can see. And I have a spreadsheet for the personal and I have a spreadsheet excuse me, for the business. Excuse me for a moment here while I wet my whistle. Um, the So what I did is I have this separation, but I was still crossing back and forth. And so that has been a process ongoing. And finally, one day, I got the advice, and I was looking it up, and I thought, oh, I'll just go in, and I'll pay myself back. I'm trying to think of the business term it was for paying a salary back, and it would have worked. There are different methods you can do. You can Google it and find it out as to what works, particularly in your state. Might be a different. Your state may have some laws that will impact that, but there are different ways of keeping your income and expenses separate from personal and business. Well, that's when this friend said, "Well, we have." She and her husband have their own business, and what they do is they loan. They have money come in. Some money comes in from their from other sources into their personal account, and then they loan that money to the business, and then the business pays back or repays that loan at a much smaller basis, keeps most of it, and pays them back whatever their needs are, their personal needs, and that has worked for them. And I thought, okay, I'll try that, and that has been an experience that has really made a difference in my case. It gives you a different perspective, for one thing. Well, now you're looking at that as the income is no longer your personal income. You're looking at it as part of your business income, and it's you're repaying as a loan. You're repaying the loan, but it's still an income source, and you are looking at it totally different. Now it's over here on the business side rather than over here on the personal, and your thinking, your approach, all these things will change. It'll be a more business-like, a more professional way of looking at things, and so your budget will change also. Now you're going to be able to start refining your budget and say, okay, this is what I need for my personal. Over here is what I need for my business. Now here's my money, so I'm going to repay some of the loan to cover this personal, and the rest I'll keep for the business, whatever the business purposes are, the business expenses. So that is something that I would recommend you check that out. You might want to check with your if you have a banking CPR or CPR or CPA, somebody like that you know, or somebody in the banking industry, or you can just go to your bank and see what they think of that. And so then they can give advice. Just remember, they're giving you advice. It's not necessarily legally binding on you, but they'll give you some advice. You can also you might actually be able to go to your state government and inquire about things of this nature. That's why I don't give you a one size fits all, because we have 50 states and they all have their own rules. They may or may not agree with the other states. And so you want to make sure that the state you live in, the state you're doing business in, is the one you go by. And so what I go by here in Florida may not work for you if you live in, say, New York, Minnesota, California, Oregon, whatever, Alaska, Hawaii. It doesn't matter. Because wherever you live, wherever you're doing your business, your primary business, you're going to have to abide by those rules. And so you need to find them out. And that shouldn't be that hard. You can go on, you can Google a lot of that. You can also write letters to them or communicate to them in some way or fashion. But basically, the ground level, if you will, is that you need to track your debits and you need to track your deposits. These play a big role in when you're figuring your taxes out. They play a big role when you're trying to create a budget for the next year, the coming year. They play a role in every aspect of your business. As a writer, you're going to have money coming in from your books. You're going to have money going out for advertising, perhaps. Maybe you're going to have money going out for paper, for print, for your printer, or ink for your printer. Different things that you're going to want to track, so that when it comes tax time, you can break it down to whatever the government is asking you, and say, okay, this is what I did. Boom, 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 and you have it right there. Also, that's the spreadsheet. I would definitely encourage you to maintain a spreadsheet if you don't currently do so. But the spreadsheet is not your all in all. Now you have another option, which I myself am exploring, and that is to hire somebody who can do all this for you. As you get bigger, as your business grows and you expand, it could take up a lot of your time. And so you might want to consider that. And if you do that, think forward. Are you ever going to have employees? If so, that's what you want to do. You want to find a business so that you can maybe all under one roof, so to speak. Handle your HR, human resources, handle your taxes, handle your expenses, your income, and things of this nature, all under one roof. And so I'm not going to give any recommendations on that. There are a lot out there. You need to look at that for yourself. See what fits you. Not what fits me, what fits you. And so that's it for today. I want to give you an overview of the whole thing. Then the very next one, we're going to be looking at some more into this banking idea. But we're going to look into DBA, and we're going to look at the different types. And sole proprietor is where I'm at, so I'll be focusing on that. And I'll be focusing on the DBA, which can be used at any one of those types. So that's it for today. I just encourage you to think very seriously about establishing a business banking account if you haven't done so already. You have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.